All right, folks. This is my good friend and Tai Chi student, long-term Tai Chi student who's been doing it with me for like almost 20 years. Betty LaDuke, who is a internationally known artist and a humanitarian and community activist. And I thought we would ask Betty to talk a little bit today about how her tradition, which is art and social activism and emotional and intellectual expression, creative expression, how does that help with recovering from loss, recovering from trauma? We've had so many traumas lately and losses lately, not only with the pandemic, but here in the Rogue Valley, we had some terrible fires last year that destroyed whole neighborhoods and homes. Many of us have lost friends and family and health and trust and all kinds of things over the past year and a half. And we're looking today at how does art and creative expression help you with a loss, and recovering from loss. So
huge question.
Yeah, big huge question.
Yeah, I think I can handle it more by showing specific art pieces, but also just to say in general, I don't run away from the pain. I try to understand it. I try to get immersed as much as, sometimes it's me because I've lost, I've been close to it in terms of COVID. I've been close to it in terms of the fire. Sometimes it's me directly. Sometimes it's through a friend or a relative, on and on. So I use the feelings, and I use it through my pen, my sketchbook, scribbling, just letting feelings sort of come out. Sometimes they're unformed, and gradually the process begins to take a shape. And when it takes a shape, I run with it. And I have a way that I handle wood now, that I like to shape and cut the wood and gouge into it and then dig into it and then paint on top. So I use that format, and I'd love to talk about specific works.
Okay, let's see something.
I think the one we'll all connect with right away is the fire. So we're going to move over to this part of the studio where I have the fire.
Wow.
The fire, the fury, and the resilience, thank goodness.
So the first one is the fire.
Yes.
The one on the left. And then the middle one is the fury.
Yes.
Wow, these are beautiful.
And the resilience. People surviving and taking a cat, taking what they can, but surviving, intact as bodies, as families, as much as possible.
Right.
And a lot of that happened because I had a friend here who didn't know whether her house would survive or not. She was a Phoenix fire refugee, and she stayed with me for 9 days, and absorbing her anxiety, though we missed it here up in Ashland.
Right.
We missed it directly, but indirectly through her living with me here, and every day the vibes in terms of the confusion, the not knowing, and so eventually, even when she was here, I began to sketch, and then eventually the sketches took on these forms one at a time.
Right.
And reinforced, once we could, my going to talent in Phoenix and looking and letting those burnt trees and those what was left over of people's homes and lives, and just absorbing it.
Right.
So that's how this work happened.
Great. What else can you show us?
Well, there's been a whole lot this past 2 years, and I'd like to share a piece that goes back earlier, and it's right back here in this corner. You're following me to a corner, and I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to share this particular one, and I call it Still We Rise. And there was so much coming through in the media, because we were housebound for the most part, about the killings of African Americans. And this was my way of dealing with it from a more historical perspective, in a sense, the downtrodden, the trees, the hangings, the lynchings. And then Maya Angelou's poem, Still I Rise, inspired a more uplifted version
Right,
of
a more
feeling.
community, Still We Rise, yeah.
Yes, so that we can continue. And also, it was so wonderful to see so many marches all over the country, so many people caring, including right here in Ashland, at the Railroad Park and the fence, and participating with a piece of art for that fence too.
Right.
So it's good that there was a big unified gathering.
Yeah, great, very good, lovely, beautiful piece. And then tell us a little bit about the turtles. I see some turtles up here.
The turtles came after because first I did the pandemic work. So first the turtles. So I did the pandemic work. If you want to go in order,
which one's pandemic?
This is the first one here. I did the whole series. So the first one here, I call it Easter Sunday virus because Trump said it's all going to be done and over with in 2020. Easter Sunday will be done, and we know, and. The series grew because there were many things we had to do, and one of them was to wear masks, and nobody wanted to wear masks, and there was a great deal of anger apart, some people that were in the resistance. So I used seagulls as a metaphor, and these seagulls are not cooperating. They're just there. They're kind of we don't care is what they're saying, because a lot of people didn't care.
Can you turn it that way just a little bit? Turn it that way a little so it catches the light. No, the other way.
They didn't
want
to have anything imposed upon their freedom. And
right,
so
they're represented by seagulls.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there's a series of seagulls social distancing.
Okay, all right, great.
And the turtles came a little bit later, so let's see what else I can. Here's another piece, for example, that ties in with everything sort of flowed together between the pandemic, between Black Lives Matter, and I call this one, "This Too Shall Pass." People didn't want to really deal with the reality, and that was a favorite slogan. This too shall pass. We know it didn't, and it doesn't. We have to be active and proactive to make things happen.
Right. Okay, great.
There's a lovely piece back here. I'm going to dig a bit further. It's one of my favorites, and it's one of my favorites because it was inspired by a tree where I walk almost every day, an Ashland tree, in the park. And I'm going to lift it up because the tree forms inspired this piece. And the title of it is "As Things Kept on Happening for All of Us." The title of this one is "No Justice, No Peace."
I like it. Beautiful.
So dealing with what we're all experiencing via the news, the media.
Right.
These are the tokens,
right.
The words that inspired.
And these are etched into wood. So if you hold it up for a second, let me just zero in. There's a 3D effect here.
That's a madrone tree that I so love when I walk every day.
Right. Lovely. Okay, beautiful. So you've turned some pretty traumatic and difficult and
themes,
potentially paralyzing events into art and into expression that kind of uplift and connect people to the possibilities and of healing and of recovery.
Thank you. I think you summarized it well.
It's really it's true. I forget who said it, but someone says, if you express what's within you, it will save you. But if you keep it within you, it will kill you.
It's so good.
Don't hold
wise,
on to it.
So
right.
wise, yeah. So this is kind of my
turtle
background of action. And then we went from that piece to this one here, watching PBS a lot, and the early months of the pandemic and the horrible cruelty of it, especially in the New York City area. Because I grew up in the Bronx, I just was fixated thinking, we had lived in apartments, and this is where these people were in apartments, and they were dying inside, outside. The hospitals weren't enough. There weren't enough morgue space. It was just horrendous in the early days. So this is my pandemic agony and resilience.
Like each one has a little white or a blue.
Yeah, those could be like
bird.
the little crosses, the little deaths, the little symbols of the density of the amount of,
the spirit,
of life that was being lost.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow. Incredible colors. And it's all three-dimensional, so you can see there's shapes in here. It's really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
You're supposed to, as you get older, Betty, you're supposed to work little tiny paintings.
Me? Never.
All right, well, why don't we finish with the turtles?
Sure, my pleasure. They were my great joy. They are my great joy. Well, after so much agony, I started many other projects, including a coloring book project where I was looking through so much of my work and seeing that turtles had been a theme. There was something about the turtles. Also, I ran into them. They ran into me in Minnesota, where my daughter is. There are many turtles, and big ones. And the idea was to fill it with dreams. So I call this Turtle Dreams. And each one has a different name. But I just needed to enjoy form. I just needed to have a certain relaxed feeling about filling them with human spirits of the fact that we need to survive.
So it's not just about a social commentary or making a point. It's also just about what you need personally. You need to make a shape or express a certain part of yourself. Always seeking a kind of a balance and coherence internally, I would guess, like a good feeling in here.
Exactly.
And when something's a little off, I got to express something. I've got to move something through to make myself come back to that balance. Right.
And I found that these were fun pieces, not with the density of the horror of some of these other background experiences.
Oh, they're just beautiful.
It was just a joy. So each one has a different name, from Turtle Dreams. There's Dreamers up there. This is a Turtle Resilience.
Okay,
and,
Resilience. That's a great one. That's my favorite.
We have this one here that is Expectations, and just a delightful play. And and this one is there's a word for it. I hope I wrote it down. I didn't. Oh my God! It's sort of a remembering.
Remembrance, memorial.
Yeah, it's more of a personal, intimate sort of remembering, and so on.
It's beautiful.
So just having fun with the forms. And,
right. So recovering from trauma for you is not just an arduous, difficult creative process, but it's also a joy, a pleasure to release that whatever was bound up and
that there's a lot to life, and life is diverse, and you don't hold on to any one thing, but you just
find a way to create something of beauty, and also it must be nice to connect with the painting through to the viewer, the person watching it.
That's so much a part of what I do.
It's not just all by yourself on a desert island.
I'm so glad when I will have an exhibit at the Grants Pass Art Museum this
coming
spring, in April and May.
April and May of 2022.
So all of these pieces will be there.
2022, there'll be a bunch of Betty's pieces up in Grants Pass if you're watching this in time to see that. Lovely. Otherwise, you can search on BettyLaDuke.com. Right? You've got some stuff up there.
And Oregon Art Beat. Oregon Art Beat did a wonderful film of my work.
Art Beat, okay.
Yes,
and that'll be something you can search.
Yeah, and Jefferson Public Radio did a nice written visual story on the internet.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
So I feel lucky that people care.
Lovely.
And I love sharing my work with others.
Well, thank you, Betty, so much for doing this with us. We really appreciate it. And this will be a wonderful part of our Interfaith.
I'm so glad I could share.
I think it's the 38th annual international or Internet Thanksgiving, not Internet, what am I trying to say? Interfaith Thanksgiving ceremony. So thank you for representing art and creative expression and a little political activism as well. You're welcome.
Yeah.